Hopefully most of you can hear me. This is an extremely disconcerting experience. We just said we feel like we've come to a rave. I can hear myself talking in my ears. Anyway, we'll get started. Thank you for joining us. It's really lovely to see so many people here. A very warm welcome. We're talking about taking a green approach to water, and I guarantee you've got an absolutely cracking panel to hear from, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. We're going to be talking about nature-based solutions. That probably means something to most of you, but if it doesn't, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. We're going to be talking specifically about 4 really innovative projects that have been funded by the Ofwat Innovation Fund. We'll explain what that is in a moment as well, and how they're looking to address some of the challenges of climate resilience on our water environment. So I'm Niki Roach. I'm the host of the Planet Possible podcast, and I'm also the director of Blue and Green Consulting. And I spent my career working in and around water, and there are some really amazing examples of how nature can solve some of our really complicated problems. So I'm really delighted today that our panel are going to have the chance to share some of their stories with you. So nature-based solutions, probably fairly self-explanatory, but just in case this is new to you, really solutions that work with existing natural processes, of which we use that loads, particularly in wastewater treatment. Most wastewater treatment actually is a nature-based solution. But what we mean here are solutions that also use nature to give us extra benefits. So that might be something like environmental benefits for people living close to a wetland, for example, or it might be reduce flooding, those sort of things. So really where there's an improvement beyond the thing that the solution is there specifically to drive. So the projects that we're hearing about have all been funded through a thing called the Ofwat Innovation Fund, and I'm really delighted that Dr. Jo Jolly at the end of the line, smiling at me there, who's part of the Ofwat team, is here, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about the Ofwat Innovation Fund too. And if you want to find out more after today, then the Ofwat team are here on the stand sort of just behind me. You can go and find them. They are a friendly bunch. Go and have a chat with them if you want to find out how you might be able to get involved. Okay, and the final thing to say actually about that is, try not to drop my notes. I love an old-fashioned report. It's a good thing to read on the train, isn't it? So there are some learning reports from some of these projects. We're going to talk about 4 of them. There are 8 featured in here. You can get this obviously digitally, but if you're old-fashioned like me and you want a hard copy, the Ofwat gang have got some of them as well. So if you want to find out more about these projects in a bit more detail, go and grab one of the copies of the learning report afterwards. Okay, so should we just get started, I think. Let's start at the end. I'm going to ask everyone to do a quick intro to themselves, but also tell us a little bit about their projects. So, Jo, let's start with you.
Niki, thank you so much for such a lovely intro. So my name's Jo Jolly. I'm the Director for Environment and Innovation at Ofwat. I joined Ofwat last August, so still relatively new, I think, and still learning quite a lot. Prior to that, I was at the Infrastructure and Projects Authority for 2 years in Cabinet Office, and prior to that, it was 15 years in infrastructure delivery in the flood risk capital programme at the Environment Agency. So actually my background is quite a lot in delivery of projects and sort of trying our best to make things real on the ground. So I can talk glowingly about the Ofwat Innovation Fund because I can take absolutely no credit for it. So it's all the credit of my team and the organisation for bringing about this truly brilliant initiative. It started back in 2020, recognising that actually the water sector, and in fact probably any sector, anything, needs something to really support, inspire, be the catalyst for helping to get innovation going until it sort of spun up into business as usual. And so Ofwat recognised this, and in 2020 started the now Ofwat Innovation Fund, and for a 5-year period, over that AMP7 period, £200 million has been invested in a whole host of projects. It's allocated through a competition process, independently judged by a broad range of panel members. And actually the success of it has just been phenomenal. And it's hard to overstate actually the thought, the care, the imagination, the creativity that's gone into making it what it is. And in that time, there's so many amazing stats, I have to write them down because I can't remember them all, but we have invested in 109 projects so far, which includes nearly 300 organisations working in partnership, and that's across academia, charity, ENGOs, water companies, of course, and whole host of other sectors in this country and globally. So I think those stats really speak for itself about how effective, how collaborative, and how enabling this process is. And in reflection of that, for this next 5-year period, this AMP8 period, the Innovation Fund has doubled to 400 million. And we'll be talking a little bit later probably, or you can speak to our colleagues at the Innovation Fund or go online to find out about when those competitions open, how you can apply, how you can get involved. But just to say that although the fund has doubled, our ambition for what we're going to deliver and achieve has gone up manyfold. And actually, to bring a bit of, tough love to it as well, yes, it's great to invest in all these projects, but actually, unless they're adopted at scale and at pace across the whole sector, they have limited value. So our real focus for this period is on collaboration and implementation and making a real difference over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Brilliant, Jo. Thank you. And that segues nicely into the next three panellists who are all about delivery and what's being implemented. So Richard, why don't you go next?
Thank you for having me today, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Richard Unsworth. I'm an academic scientist at Swansea University, but I'm also the founding director and chief scientist at the international conservation organisation Project Seagrass. And the reason I'm here is that we got funded a number of years ago by the Ofwat Innovation Fund to set up to basically kickstart our seagrass nursery in South Wales, and to trial seagrass restoration in the Essex and Suffolk estuaries. And as an organisation, we've been at the forefront of trying to push the importance of seagrasses in the UK and globally. 15 years ago, I came back to the UK from working in Australia and recognised very quickly that seagrasses weren't considered in conservation, weren't considered in science, and they had a huge role to play in fighting our climate emergency, our biodiversity crisis. And we've been working on a whole range of projects to push forward the science of that, push forward the action, the implementation of that, push forward the communication and the education of the wider population about seagrass, to bring it up to the ladder of importance. And we've been able to lead the UK's first major seagrass restoration programme, and with it the most successful programme, because seagrass restoration is not simple, and there are many challenges in it, and there's still many knowledge gaps that we're trying to learn from. But broadly, as an organisation, we're pushing forward that, and the work that we've done with Ofwat in Essex and Suffolk, in our nursery in South Wales, has really started to answer many questions about how we undertake these activities in different environments where there's problems such as invasive species, there's poor water quality, there's licensing headaches and lots of those. And a whole ream of different actors that are coming into play to think about how we do this work, and that funding has really sort of helped facilitate moving that forward. And it's actually, particularly with the Essex work, has actually been a founding part of capitalising further investment from the Endangered Landscapes and Seascapes programme in the Thames estuary. So there's now a major restoration project happening there, headed by ZSL. So yeah, it's great to be part of this today, and be funded by Ofwat to undertake that work and see the value in trying to bring innovation into nature-based solutions.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. I am a relatively newbie when it comes to seagrass, but it's blooming extraordinary. So I'm so excited that we're seeing more and more work with seagrass around, particularly given that we've got quite a lot of coastlines. So it's wonderful. Carolyn, over to you.
Can everyone hear me okay? No? Yes, okay, brilliant. Ooh. So I'm Carolyn Cadman. I'm Director of Net Zero, thank you, Jo, and Natural Resources at South West Water. I haven't had a career a long career in the water industry. I've been in South West Water for about 3 years now. Having been, most of my career have been in environmental organisations, most recently Chief Exec of Cornwall Wildlife Trust, which many of you will be aware of the wildlife trusts around the country. Join them if you're not already, if I can plug them. The reason I'm here today is because South West Water partnered with the West Country Rivers Trust to come up with the concept of water net gain, which we'll talk about in the session, and South West Water is also a partner in many other of the projects featured in the report that you can pick up from the Ofwat stand, mainstreaming nature-based solutions and Castco as well.
Brilliant, thanks. Carolyn's doing like top trumps for Ofwat innovation projects today, which is good. And last but by no means least, Gabriele, over to you.
Yes, hello. Happy this is coming through. Yep. Hi everyone, my name is Gabriele Caprotti and I'm here from the Greater London Authority, where I head up the Mayor's Infrastructure Coordination Service, broadly speaking working on improving the planning and delivery of infrastructure. So most of the time I spend working alongside utilities and the infrastructure sector, but today I'm here representing the project developing a market-based approach to delivering sustainable drainage systems, SUDS, through streetworks. So in a nutshell, what is the project all about? Well, we know there's a big challenge in London in terms of surface water flooding. We've had some terrible events over the last few years. It's a persistent issue in London, but also across the UK. And some of the Thames Water targets that have been released recently, for example, through the Thames Water Drainage and Wastewater Management Plan, have indicated that over 75,000 hectares need to be attenuated through SUDS by 2050. So that's a really big number. And currently, Thames Water are installing about 4 hectares per year. And are sort of delivering some good effort on that front, but I think there's a huge step change that's required. We're talking about a 70-fold increase in the number of SUDs that need to be installed across London. So the project is stepping into this space, trying to develop a market-based approach, applying a market lens to really consider the problem from a completely different lens. So we're working to develop a market that can sort of welcome buyers of SUDs, if you like, those local flood authorities who are looking to install SUDs across London, suppliers of SUDs, so utility companies, if you like, that could be leveraged to reinstate SUDs through their standard and planned investments, so through streetworks, and a market operator that would oversee the market and ensure sort of demand and supply could be matched up, and we could have sort of an effective process through which SUDs could be scaled across the city at a cheaper price. And I should say this project is being co-delivered alongside Thames Water.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. And just from an audio perspective, hopefully you can all hear, but just I'm noticing closer to your mouth is better, definitely with a mic, so it might feel a bit weird and like we're in a boy band. We're all going to stand up at the key change, don't you worry. So what is brilliant about this panel, I think, is that you've got 3 projects that cover the wide spectrum of nature-based solutions. So Carolyn's projects are all about upstream in the catchment, holding water back, slowing the flow, which is brilliant. Then you've got Gabriele in the middle, in that kind of urban environment. So we can do nature-based solutions in urban environments and slow the flow of water and try and take rainfall out of our sewers and keep it where it needs to be. And then you've got Richard looking at the coastal, so at the very end of the line as well. So for me, the exciting thing about nature-based solutions is it's not one size fits all, and it's not only applicable to rural environments, for example. You can apply them all over the place. However, we're not covered with the nature-based solutions across the country at the moment, and Gabriele just started to touch on the fact that there are some barriers to adoption. So we're going to spend a few minutes not trying to dwell in the negative, but being really realistic about why we're not seeing more of them. And what you have in front of you, I can guarantee, is a team of absolute nature-based solutions evangelists. If we could have more, we would. Everyone in their roles is pushing. So let's find out how and why, really. So Carolyn, if I come to you first, talk to me about some of the barriers your projects have faced kind of for this wider adoption of nature-based solutions.
Okay, so WaterNet Gain is looking at different ways in which you can incentivise farmers to store water on their farm. Water that's then available for use on their farm or available for trading or sharing with other land users. The innovation in the WaterNet Gain project is about having a network of water batteries, I think Ofwat called it, of stores of water, which kind of the idea for it harked back to landscape maps that Cornwall Council, in fact, had pulled together, where many farms in the 1800s had ponds, and they were mapping what's now called ghost ponds. And it was clear that people were storing water locally and using it locally. So we thought, well, ponds seem very sensible. Particularly, this was all discussions in the year 2022, where Cornwall was subject to a drought. So with the West Country Rivers Trust, we just started exploring, well, how can we incentivise farmers to store more water in the land? The barriers that we've found over the course of the last 18 months in the project are really quite random in some cases. So there's cultural barriers where farmers don't necessarily want to engage with a project that's funded by in this type of way, but those are quite minor. The other issues that really are present is around tax implications, land ownership, water ownership, so who actually owns the water if it's stored on your land, particularly if you want to trade it, and how do you organise the kind of governance around storing and trading water. That seems to be, it's the purpose of the project to explore it, but those governance issues are what's holding people back.
I want to get into more of that, but I'm also conscious we want to give time for questions as well. So I'm going to keep us moving, but we're going to do our very best to make sure there's at least 10 minutes of questions. So don't leave us hanging. Start thinking of some good ones if that's okay. Right, so we've done the top end. Let's go to the middle. So Gabriele, let me come to you next. You've touched a little bit on, I guess, some of the barriers of why you've got the project, really, but talk to me about the barriers that you are experiencing for kind of widespread adoption of SUDS.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the key challenges in London is around delivery and space. So we know SUDS is a solution. The money is there for it. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle directing it to the projects and to the local flood authorities. But really, one of the key challenges is the speed at which we need to deliver SUDS just isn't there. So one of the things that the project has been looking at isn't so much SUDS. It's more about how we deliver SUDS. So we've seen that there's asset congestion in the road. The road space isn't there at the moment. So if we're delivering 7,000 hectares attenuating SUDS, we've got to find this space. So there's definitely a challenge around sourcing the data as to where a sustainable drainage system can be placed, where it would coexist alongside other utility assets, and ensuring that we can actually deliver multiple of these projects in a non-tailored way. So we want to move away from special engineering solutions dotted across the whole of the city and just get to a place where we can be installing SUDS, rain gardens, whatever it might be, left and right, across every borough and across the whole catchment.
This is a loaded question. I'm going to ask it, though. Do you think there are any kind of regulatory or policy hurdles that are getting in the way of wider adoption?
Yes, for sure. I think you touched upon one of the pain points, which is the whole project is about trying to leverage other planned investments. So if we've got a water company or a gas company or a power company or a telecoms provider or a heat network going into the road and having an open excavation and essentially using that to reinstate the SUDS, which is great. That's what we're all about. That's what we're trying to make happen. The issue is all of these sectors and companies are regulated differently. And there's definitely a reluctance across the utilities world to have SUDS very close or in the vicinity of their assets, because understandably their assets could be damaged and so on. So there's definitely a lot in the grey that we're trying to navigate. And I think one of the enjoyable challenges, which has been tricky, but it's part of the process and it's part of this journey, is trying to demystify what can't be done and actually focus on success stories and the solutions that we know we can achieve together.
I love that. I mean, positive framing. Wonderful, Gabriele. Grazie mille. Right. Richard, over to you. Thank you for waiting.
Seagrasses are at the sort of bottom of the catchment at the ocean interface, and we well know that our oceans are the ultimate recipient of humanity's ills, and we've degraded them. And I don't think we truly appreciate how much we've degraded them. There was a recent study released that we've basically removed almost every oyster from the seabed of Northern Europe. Functionally extinct, and it's the same with seagrasses. We've destroyed them. They've soaked up nitrogen, waste, all sorts of humanity's ills, and degraded at quite a gigantic rate and extent. We've possibly lost up to 90% of the UK's seagrass, and a huge part of that is due to poor water quality. And to really transform the recovery of these habitats, we need a better recognition of the role that those habitats could play into the future, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of climate, in terms of actually absorbing some of the nitrogen that's coming off the catchments. And that's not just recognition at a sort of societal level, but within the utilities industry, there's limited uptake of seagrass as a nature-based solution, and that's a specific UK thing, because I actually co-supervise a PhD in Melbourne in Australia, and that PhD is funded as a massive program by Melbourne Water. And I was talking to the CEO of Melbourne Water about this project, and I said, well, why do you want to fund this? And he said, because we're part of the problem, and we want to be part of the solution. And I think that to truly embrace nature-based solutions, we need to overcome that and get to that point where actually industry wants to be part of the solution. And I don't see that enough around the UK.
Oh, it's sobering, but we were asking for challenges, so I think it was going to be. And I think one of my reflections, is around us all valuing nature and valuing the environment. And I think we're starting to see that. I think a lot of the conversations I'm hearing just today in some of these talks have been around how do we actually value it, and how do we get that interface between funding and organisations that have got assets and the need. And it's tricky, isn't it? It's all tricky, but it's a really interesting place. I'm glad we're having the conversations. So hopefully things are slowly turning, Richard. Okay, we'll move on from barriers to try and a slightly more positive slant. We're going to think about collaboration a little bit. A big part of the fund is about bringing together lots of organisations and also unexpected organisations. So I don't know where you all work, but if you've ever thought about working in the water sector, or even if you haven't, the Ofwat Innovation Fund is definitely something to have a look at, because the sector faces some of the biggest challenges we have at the moment in the UK, and we need people and ideas and innovation and organisation to come and work with us. So if you do nothing else from today, then check out the Ofwat Innovation Fund. Collaboration is the name of the game. So all of your projects have been really collaborative. I am really interested to understand how you've really levered some of that experience and so gone beyond a water company experience, really. So let's go in the same order, if that's okay. Carolyn, let me come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, the WaterNet Gain project that I spoke about earlier, it's actually quite a limited collaboration in terms of the range of stakeholders, because it's primarily farmers who we're working with. We're also speaking with a dairy company as well. So that perhaps is a more limited scope. But if we think about the Mainstreaming Nature-Based Solutions project and the CASTCO project, which is CASTCO is an acronym that is Catchment Systems Thinking Cooperative, and it's kind of more reflective of the types of things that these two were talking about, in terms of a collaboration of people who need, for whatever reason, to think about water from a catchment perspective and from a systems perspective. So, as you said, there's no one single source of pollution, really. There's multiple sources of pollution, diffuse pollution in many cases, that all comes together in where seagrass happens to be. And that's agricultural runoff, it's sewage from water companies, it's industrial runoff. There's just multiple sources, and we really do need to work together to solve those water management challenges. And that's what I think is really great about the Ofwat Innovation Fund. It brings those partners together.
And just to plug, I think Casco is interesting because it's also citizen scientists, isn't it? So it's not just about the usual suspects gathering data. It's about saying where are all the places we can get data from about the quality of our water in catchments, including, if ever you've done the big river watch for the Rivers Trust, or I can't think what the Earth Watch one is, but there are some big citizen science projects you can get involved in. So awesome, brilliant. Gabriele, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up on the concept of collaboration, I think the whole project is nested in partnership working with the wider sector. I think the why is the interesting question. I think what we realize, unfortunately, is we can't solve surface water flooding by ourselves. So the GLA, the Mayor of London recognize that we need to work with the wider sector, every infrastructure stakeholder. And that's why we value partnership so much. And I think we know that the expertise, the willingness, and the delivery potential critically does exist across the sector. So what this project is doing, thanks to the Ofwat Innovation Fund, is bringing together very different worlds, companies and organizations and entities that effectively have nothing to do with surface water flooding, bringing them together and essentially offering them a commercial incentive, a stake in the game, giving them some sort of way in to be part of the solution and help deliver SUDs at scale. So I think one of the things that we've been seeing from the project is the supply chain does exist. There are lots of companies, contractors and so on who are willing to participate and help in addressing this big challenge. And what this project is trying to do is essentially provide the way in which they can participate. So giving them a financial incentive, giving them the data as to where the SUDs need to happen, formalizing and standardizing the contracts and so on, so as to bring different organizations together. And I think the sweet spot, what we've seen from some of the initial findings, is where we do find pilots where a utility company reinstates with SUDs as opposed to just reinstating asphalt or concrete, we're seeing savings of close to 25% on the delivery costs of SUDs. So collaboration is definitely of value. We're big cheerleaders for it, but also the actual numbers back up the concept and the need for greater partnership across the sector.
I think it's so critical when we have that kind of data, because there's a risk this can seem a bit altruistic sometimes, and that's great. For some of us, we're very happy to hug a tree and be very comfortable saying that, but actually there's a business model here that really works, and but having the data to back it up is really key, I think, isn't it? Richard, let me come to you. So collaboration, who have you been collaborating with on the Seagrass project?
Well, as Project Seagrass, we've been a sort of a key, I guess, cog in a bigger collaboration around seagrass restoration in the UK, but also globally. And out of the Ofwat Fund and the nursery that we developed, we actually helped to create something called the Global Seagrass Nursery Network, which is now about 140 partners strong, who meet at sometimes all hours of the day to reflect time zones. But we talk about how we're undertaking activities in a seagrass nursery to improve its effectiveness, its reliability, and that's partners from Abu Dhabi to Hong Kong to Australia to the Caribbean, all learning together. And it's about sharing the good and the bad and the ugly, because actually habitat restoration, whether you're talking about planting forests or you're talking about oysters or corals or seagrass, there are a lot of failures, yeah. And as a sort of an industry, we don't share our failures well, and it's something that we've been pushing forward. Is about collaboration where actually people talk about failure, so we can learn from failure and learn as a community together about that failure. And on the back of that, we've actually just recently launched a new platform called Seagrass Restorer, which is encouraging groups all around the world. There's been a lot of uptake in the UK so far as well. People involved with seagrass restoration actually documenting where they're doing it, sharing the key information. So actually, when that project works or it fails, the information isn't lost, and actually others can learn from it, and that's critical. And it all goes back to the little badge here with all the SDGs. That one of these, I think the blue one, is partnerships for the goals. And as a community, we have to have bigger partnerships to solve big problems.
Brilliant, thank you. I love the idea of little baby seagrass in nurseries all over the place. It's a wonderful image. Joe, conscious we haven't heard from you for a little while, do you want to talk, I guess from a helicopter view, collaboration, talk to me about Ofwat's view on how it's all working.
Ofwat's view on how it's all working. Perhaps to sort of, listening to this superb panel, the thing that I'm hearing that runs through all of it is the choices we make. And it is choices. And I think, yes, there's challenges, there's regulatory challenges, there's funding challenges, there's all of these things. And we need to work on all of those. But my encouragement is also to focus on what we can do right now through the choices we make. And that is very much Ofwat's view. Like I say, I joined last August, and as an organisation, I cannot speak highly enough of it, and I'm not paid beyond my salary to say that. It's kind, it's inclusive, it's deeply, it has great humility and courage and ambition to do the very best it can and learn. And I think any organisation that has that at its core can achieve extraordinary things. That's my experience of working at Ofwat, and I've worked at a few places, and this is by far the best. So with that in mind, I really do want to focus on, it is about the environment we create for success. It is about the choices we make. And I hear so often, I could do this if that thing was better. I could do this if that was better. If this wasn't so difficult, then I could do this. And to be blunt, back to the old tough love, they're kind of excuses. Are you honestly saying you're doing the very best you can? There's simply nothing you can do better. If that's the case, well, really well done, but I know I'm not. So on a daily basis, we strive to do better. And my absolute personification of this is Sir David King, who has established the Centre for Climate Repair to refreeze the Arctic. He's saying not only do we have to remove and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but we have to repair damaged climatic systems. And that's what he's doing, which is why the Seagrass Project is my second favourite after refreezing the Arctic. Sorry, Richard. But on a really serious note, I know I'm sounding a little bit jokey. It's what's a life well lived for you? For me, it's doing the best I can for the planet through the work I do before I die. And the choices I make every day are down to me, no one else. So I can say these things are difficult, or I can try my best to find my way through it. And actually, one of the massive enablers of all of this is around, and my background is in the infrastructure sector, and so much, not all of it, but so much of what we are trying to deliver here is through that sector. In the water sector over the next 5 years, £100 billion, more than £100 billion is going to be invested in 5 years. That's happening now. How do we make sure that money is spent really well with our delivery partners through the supply chain, and that we're not thinking it's nature-based solutions or concrete? How do we make sure every single project delivers the best value across all of those UN SDGs for the local communities, for nature, for the air environment, for the water quality? We can make these choices through all that we do. And so, that's the bit that I really wanted to add, is our own personal agency and really holding ourselves to account to whatever degree you feel comfortable about making things happen in the best way you can. And through those multiple small choices, I don't know how much better we make the planet, but we make it better. So why wouldn't we?
Thank you, Joe. I mean, I don't know who signed up for life coaching, but I feel like if Joe's offering it, I'm taking it. I mean, it's utterly inspiring, and you're absolutely right. And all of these projects, I think, are the epitome of that. There's lots of people trying to go beyond the day job, fitting this in and doing really innovative and exciting stuff to push things forward within the bounds of the existing regulatory and policy landscape. Well, it kind of takes us nicely on to the third thing that I wanted to ask, and then I'm going to come to you, lovely lot, for some questions. So it might be dark, but I can still see the purple of your ears, so I'm coming for you. But before we do that, let's think about wider benefits. And when we were chatting before we came in here, I said to the guys, I would really like us to focus on what tangible outcomes you've seen so far, because we can speak in platitudes on panels all we want, but actually, what are you delivering? What are you seeing on the ground? What difference is it making? Because that's why most of us come to work. So, and can you quantify it? So I'm going to start with Carolyn again. And obviously you've got 3 projects to choose from should you want to. Talk to me about the benefits, Carolyn.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about any of those 3 projects, actually.
You are a chair's nightmare.
I know,
That's what you are.
Sorry. But one of the projects and initiatives that attracted me to come and work for South West Water is the fact that we lead and facilitate the South West Peatland Partnership. Something which Ofwat about 15 years ago took the decision to let water companies spend customer money on other people's land, which enabled us to get more into landscape scale nature recovery projects. So we've been doing peatland restoration for about 15 years now, and we've now got academic peer-reviewed science that demonstrates the natural flood management benefits. We can prove the water quality benefits as well of restoring peatland. Peatland acts as a natural sponge, particularly when it's got pools and sphagnum moss in it, which is a species of moss that carries about 20 times its mass in water and keeps that water locked on the landscape. So we've got oodles of science telling us about the benefits to water quality and natural flood management. But we're also now developing the science around the biodiversity benefits. We're seeing species coming back. We're seeing more people enjoying the landscape, so there's recreational benefits as well, there's health and well-being benefits. Potentially, there's also recent wildfires on Dartmoor that affected both land that had been restored and land that peatland that hadn't been restored. So we've now thinking about the evidence base for can peatland restoration stop or decrease the impact of wildfires as well. So there's oodles of benefits that we can prove, that we have the data, both in terms of academic research, but also personal anecdotes and experiences as well.
Yeah, I think there is a growing weight of evidence, isn't there, really? It's brilliant to hear. Okay, Gabriele, from your perspective, what are you seeing benefit-wise so far? Obviously, your project is still ongoing, but what are you seeing so far?
Yeah, very interesting. I suppose, obviously, SUDs have multiple benefits: air quality, water quality improvements, biodiversity, urban cooling, and so on. But I think what I come back to is it depends who you are, I suppose. So one of the things that the Mayor of London is very keen on is equality, diversity, and inclusion. And I think London does do well in terms of access to green spaces, but I think there is definitely an element of disparity in terms of that access. So the amount of tree canopy cover, the rain gardens that exist at parks and so on are not distributed equally across the city. So we're seeing a real benefit in using SUDs to provide those experiences to local communities. We're also seeing that business districts are desperate to have SUDs in front or close to their restaurants, cafes, whatever it might be, because you're more incentivized to hang around, have a drink al fresco, whatever it might be. So I think optics and who you are is definitely important. And I suppose just to go back to who we represent when Joe was talking about the infrastructure sector, I think sometimes we're also guilty of being part of a problem. So we often talk about SUDs as a drainage solution, which is definitely true, or an infrastructure asset. But to a lot of common folk, I'd say normal people, they look at it as a very nice patch of green and a tree. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. And it's much better than seeing asphalt or whatever was there in the first place. So some of it is around optics and who you are. And I think what we're seeing is there's a real need to have this holistic approach to bring out all of the benefits for all of the different elements of society beyond just the risks around surface water flooding and trying to do something about that.
I had the absolute pleasure of being in Paris a few weeks ago, and if you have not been recently, I would encourage you to. They are putting rain gardens all over the city. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it's kind of legacy from the Olympics. I mean, I am such fun to go on holiday with. We also went down the sewers while I was there, so tell you, my poor family. But I've got a camera roll full of pictures of rain gardens, but they're just beautiful, exactly as you said, Gabriele. Like the streetscape just looks spectacular. You can absolutely see how them businesses want to put pavement cafes and I guess on a more serious note, I was looking at a statistic earlier on today that 40% of the BAME community within the UK live in the most, if you like, green depleted parts of the country. So there is a disproportionate impact on some of our communities with lack of access to green space, which then we know have negative health benefits. If you think about blue and green social prescribing, medics are saying go and spend time near green space, but if you can't access that green space, then there is a disproportionate negative impact on health. So I'm totally with you. I think our challenge really is to kind of it's a Ghostbusters analogy, cross the streams really, and make sure that we are talking to health professionals and that we're talking to those other people that receive the benefits of those impacts to say you can plug this into your business planning. Actually, you can think about some of these solutions also delivering other benefits that might impact health, for example. So I love to hear it. Richard, I'm sorry you always feel like you're last, but you're definitely not. So talk to me about seagrass benefits. What are you seeing and what's quantifiable?
Well, the funding from Ofwat allowed us to create a seagrass nursery that's meant we're now growing mature plants in a nursery, just like you might expect in a terrestrial setting, and planting them in different parts of the UK. Now, one of those places is Dale in West Wales, where we've been running a major seagrass restoration project now for almost a decade. And we're seeing amazing benefits in that place from different perspectives. And, you can go down there on a spring tide and you can see the seagrass uncovered and covered in animals. It's very, very simple to see that there is a bare bit of sediment and there is a bit of seagrass. And the seagrass is full of little shrimps. It's full of little gastropods. As the tide starts to come in, little fish are actually in the seagrass, not on the sand. It's an incredible place for biodiversity to be present. There's birds coming along trying to pick out the worms that are in the sediment in the seagrass. It's just life coming back, and it's just lovely to see. But going back to some of those points that Gabriele was making, it's that more holistic thing being really important as well. So when we started the project in Dale, we also set up a collaboration with a local fisherman to trial something that we call the Sensitive Ecosystem Responsible Fisher Programme. And that has meant that we've had a fisherman working with us who was initially swearing at us because he didn't want us to plant seagrass in the bay, who is working with us now and is so enthused by the project. He tells all sorts of people about it. And what he does is he uses this award to go and sell his fish he catches in and around the seagrass, preferentially at a higher price to restaurants in Pembrokeshire. And he helps us in various ways. He knows where the seagrass is. He stops people anchoring in it. He reports things. He behaves in a totally responsible way. He's always there when we need to know something about the locality. And it's a mutual relationship where actually he's benefiting more and more from the seagrass being there, and actually he's becoming a guardian of that seagrass. And it's just an incredible sort of holistic view of what can actually happen when you engage the community and get the community on side with you. So yeah.
I love that. It's wonderful. I don't know anyone else. I'm grinning from ear to ear with all of these examples. Right, we've got 10 minutes left. If you haven't got any questions, that's all right. I've got plenty, but it looks like we have got some. Fabulous. And if I don't see you, forgive me because it is a bit dark. But this lady at the front was first. I think there's a microphone on its way to you. And if you can tell us who you are, that would be great as well.
Hi, I'm Avril from Cleaner Seas Project. And just like to thank the panel. It's just a brilliant conversation. I'm so glad to see this panel and it being discussed here today. Well, a few things to say. One is I didn't hear, excuse me if I've missed it, you talking about education. I think, rain gardens, SUDs, community action includes education, and rain gardens are a fantastic conduit to actually talk about water scarcity, how we protect water, what we put down our drains, how we protect our whole water cycle, and we do that through rain gardens. We've actually put together an initiative for our local catchment, which is the catchment of Bude. I've got farmers on board, or we've got farmers on board, we've got businesses on board, we've got the community on board. The proposals for 100 individual gardens, 15 community gardens, including schools and farms. Getting funding is where I'm at. I'm bankrolling these ideas at the moment and putting the time in myself to try and make it happen. So I'm super interested to hear what the panel thinks about how can your organisations make it easier for organisations like mine to find the funding. And we're trying to be very innovative. We're working with the EBN, the Environmental Business Network, looking at natural capital, how we can actually get businesses on board, corporate and SMEs, everyone taking ownership of this because it benefits everybody, and looking at it holistically. So we're creating a template that we can share, but also holistically in the sense that we've got some partners in London, some very high profile ones, once we have some funding in, where we can do some really exciting educational work in a very high profile way on the Thames. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I wonder whether, Joe, do you want to pick that up from whether there's opportunities through the fund, do you think? Or
Yeah, absolutely, and very happy to talk afterwards, and just loving hearing what you're saying about, the importance of education. And something that during my time at the Environment Agency, we would, when we were delivering flood risk projects, we'd spend time in local schools, talk about climate change, engineering, coastal erosion. It's such an opportunity, isn't it, to bring these things to life. So with maybe not to talk in too much detail about the fund now, but we run a series of competitions. Some are water company led, so maybe that's something, Caroline, because it's in your patch, isn't it, I think?
We've already spoken.
Okay, great.
This is an active conversation.
So some are water company led, and the next one opens in September. That's Water Breakthrough Challenge 6. And then we also have our Water Discovery Challenge, which are not water company led, and we're planning to run 2 more of those over this next 5-year period, so probably 2026 now. But I get the sense that's maybe not on the time scales. I mean, if you're already talking, that's one of your best avenues for sure. And I would love to be advocating the work that you're doing. That's another thing that we can do as Ofwat. We have a statutory authority to convene to advocate for our authorities and duties and responsibilities. And so perhaps we could connect, and I could do all I can to advocate the work that you're doing.
Brilliant.
But maybe others might have some more immediate funding solutions, which I think is the...
Would you mind, just because I'm conscious there are a few questions.
Sorry, yes.
No, it's fine. It feels like, come and have a conversation if you're not already. Joe is the only person that can make a statutory authority to convene sound exciting, but it does, doesn't it? There were some other hands. The gentleman in the middle with his arm up, if we can get a mic there. And who's next as well? I'm going to just pick the next question. Gentleman, so after this chat, we'll go to the gentleman, I think, wearing glasses over there as well for me. Brilliant. If we can get a second mic. Fab. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Martin Turner from the Woodland Trust, so I'm a nature-based solutions evangelist, and it's great to hear a moderator say tree hugging. Thank you. Joe's kind of touched on scratched the surface of my question already. Oh, and incidentally, we've just done a big project to map the inequality of green space in the UK. We've got data for most of the country. You can see it on our website, Tree Equity, and plans to do something about it. Anyway, collaboration's been spoken about a lot. We've got 1,200 Woodland Trust sites across the UK, and they have degraded peatland in them, they have degraded rivers in them, they have degraded ponds in them. We do loads of collaboration around river restoration, peatland restoration, pond restoration with the NGOs. And Joe touched on the point about it's not a choice between nature-based solutions and hard-built solution for natural flood for flood management. there's a case for both, but how could the built and natural solutions to flood management be more collaborative? Could they be? There's a place for both, but I'm sure there's a place for collaboration. How could we do that better?
I wonder, Carolyn, do you want to pick this one up? Yeah, thank you for your question.
It's something that I've been talking to Joe's team about this morning. Is there a way in which we can explore through the fund or just through trying it, other ways of working with water companies? What I've been in the water company for 3 years, and my experience is that many of the capital programs and individual decisions are made within the water company, by the water company, for the water company in many cases. And that's not a background that I'm really used to. I'm used to much more collaborative decision making where you look, we've got this much money to do this thing, who else can we partner with to do even more than we'd intended to do. So we're starting to do that in the Southwest. We've got a pilot programme of natural catchment management plans where we're working with local authorities, community groups, etc., to explore how we can get more bang for the buck, more public benefits from the investments that we're making. Happy to chat with you afterwards if you'd welcome it, because I'm conscious you don't want me talking too long about it.
Natural catchment management plans are brilliant. I've seen them. They are the future. I think
Niki,
we had...
Can I really
of course you can,
cheekily
Jo.
come in? Because I don't know if this is going to be my closest opportunity to shoehorning in something I wanted to mention.
Shoehorn away.
But I think something that I feel, don't focus on enough is actually our relationship with the supply chain as well and how we contract. So yes, these decisions get made, but then actually that 100-odd billion that I'm talking about will be delivered through a supply chain. And currently how we procure, contract, pay, insure, incentivise, reward, drive certain behaviours. It drives limiting behaviours. It drives out innovation. It drives out collaboration, and it's a race to the bottom. As clients hold the levers. I don't blame the industry. Clients hold the levers to do all of that differently. And I would love to find the advocates who are keen to explore how to do this differently. There is insurance-backed alliancing is a way to do it. I only know one alternative, but it's a way. You procure on behaviours, you pay a month in advance. So you haven't got all your tier 2, tier 3 subcontractors chasing their 60-day payment terms. Instead of thinking about great innovation and delivering their projects, the insurance part is what caps your professional indemnity. So you're not then thinking the minute something goes wrong, or I have to over-design everything to protect my insurance. It takes all of that away. So if you take away these root causes of limiting factors, I can promise you the magic happens. And this is delivering public sector projects right now, but just in very few places. So if anybody would like to explore that, please give me a shout.
That's brilliant, Jo. Thank you. I think as a water sector, we're having to work out how to co-deliver solutions with a whole range of organisations that are not the ones we've always historically worked with, and that's a learning curve for everybody. So I think that's brilliant. Right, the gentleman here, thank you so much. I have seen you, sorry. We'll see if we can get 2 more in. I'm going to be as quick as I can. Keep it as pithy and short as you can, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much for this session. I heard a lot about systems and the importance of thinking in systems when we are talking about these solutions. So in that spirit, I was wondering if there are any trade-offs between nature-based solutions and infrastructure solutions that have been between nature-based solutions, any trade-offs between nature-based solutions and infrastructure solutions when they have been implemented.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Who fancies picking this one up? Trade-offs. Yeah, Richard, let's go for it. Thank you. Got about 2 minutes. Sorry.
I think if you plant a habitat, you create a habitat, there will be slower timelines in it and possibly a higher risk of short-term failure. But I think the longer-term trade-offs are the sustainability in that resource, the additional stacked benefits of that resource you create, whether it's bird habitat, fish habitat, flood, whatever. There's a range of things beyond just the concrete, and therefore you need to think about the net benefit rather than just itself. But yeah, there is always going to be a short-term risk of a plant or species not taking, and that has to be built into some sort of model of the costs of it, because there is that risk, but the benefits far outweigh the risks.
I'm really pleased you asked, because I think that is one of the barriers for the sector. The water sector is traditionally quite risk averse, and we like solutions that definitely deliver. And I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the public don't really like the water sector very much at the moment. And the impact of that, therefore, is that people want to, the sector wants to do safe solutions that definitely deliver. And I think that's the challenge that we have. I am so sorry, I can see some more hands up, but we are very short of time, and I want to make sure that we get away on time. So I just, can you join me in thanking our brilliant panel in the first instance, if that's all right? I hope you found it inspiring, informative. As we say on Planet Possible, stay curious, stay connected, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. And come and find us on the Ofwat stand if you want to chat more. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day.